hope I can get this done as a single video, because I've struggled recently to record and then edit a video that I wanted to share with you yesterday. But here we are on the 5th of November, which is a significant day in England. It's not celebrated by everyone, but it's what, as a child, we used to celebrate and called Guy Fawkes Night. Guy Fawkes was a Yorkshireman born in Stonegate, not a million miles from here, probably about 40 minutes drive from here. And he was born into a Yorkshire family, and through the marriage of his mother, ended up later on in life becoming a Catholic. He and a lot of Catholics, or recusant Catholics, who were unhappy about the power of the Church of England, wanted to create a Catholic rebellion. And one of the things that Guy Fawkes did is he went over to Spain in 1605, hoping to win opposition forces, or in fact not hoping to win opposition, but hoping to gain support for a Catholic rebellion in England. And with, by the way, the reason I mention this is because there's a hell of a lot of fireworks going off outside. It sounds like small arms fire. And Bradford is a city in West Yorkshire that loves fireworks all through the year. Marriages, birthdays, christenings, for whatever reason, there will be fireworks in the sky here at night. But Guy Fawkes was one of 13 conspirators who sought to put explosives, and actually did put explosives, underneath the then House of Lords, seeking to cause trouble and potentially to assassinate the king. It was discovered, but he was dobbed in, or the authorities were tipped off with an anonymous tip that led to his arrest while he was under the building and guarding the explosives. And subsequently, he was sentenced to death by being hung, drawn and quartered. He escaped that process by jumping off the gallows, causing his own neck to break, or for his death via effectively strangulation. But ever since that attempt, the UK government took the incident to create support for themselves, and an Act of Parliament actually encouraged Londoners to burn bonfires on the 5th of November, the night of the attempt to blow up the House of Lords. And in 1650, or from 1650 onwards, fireworks became a big feature. And as we hear tonight, they are still a big feature. So that's going on in the background as I choose to record. And it's just a useful story. It's a story I grew up with as a kid, all those little pieces of information and those dates. And it was useful. On a slightly different topic, but I'm reading a book that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, a book called Yorkshire by Richard Morris, and I really enjoyed it. I had a day of reading just last week. I had a whole day just with a few hours to kill, and on the Tuesday afternoon I was able to read a lot of the content, and I've really been enjoying it. It hasn't mentioned Guy Fawkes at all yet. Maybe that will come in a different aspect of what I've been reading, but it's been a good story and I've really enjoyed it. One of the things that links into the Yorkshire story and the Guy Fawkes night is, of course, in America, the same night as we are here right now. It's the 5th of November, and everybody there is going to the voting booths, or the polling stations, as we would call it here, to vote for a very limited choice of candidates. So we will see what tomorrow brings. We'll see whether, as Guy Fawkes over the years here in England has been treated as a martyr, a figure to ridicule the establishment. Since we were kids, we would burn an effigy of Guy Fawkes, put it on the bonfire in our village, and just enjoy the community celebrating this man who stood up to what he regarded, and his co-conspirators regarded, as an uneven, unpleasant rule by those above. There are also in England at the moment lots of small groups starting to talk to each other about some of the issues that are dominating British domestic politics and triggering a lot of emotion. It's being suppressed by a lot of mainstream media activity, but it is there on all the other platforms such as YouTube and Rumble and places like that. But this isn't a political video. This is a video about the things that I've been interested in this week. So Guy Fawkes, obviously tonight, the reading of the book about my home county of Yorkshire, and the aspects of story that have fed into what is just day 5 of manuscripts in a month, rough first draft, as Sarah Cannon has been calling it, and I think that's a brilliant title, rough first draft, what we used to call publicly NaNoWriMo. Many people are still doing the NaNoWriMo process and using that organisation's plot points and tracking software to update their word count. I said to you the other day that I would try something different, and so what I have is a jar of £51 coins and another jar that I said I would put money into to transfer to my writing output. Rather than having a public word count, I'm just going to put £1 in for every unit of a whole 1,000 words that I've written. And I want to talk about that. I went over to Halifax at the weekend, and on Sunday I spent several hours writing in the beautiful atrium cum coffee shop space of the Square Chapel in Halifax. And by the way, if any of you want to come and write with me, or we'll just have a little shut up and write session there this weekend, just message me, nick@nicksturgeonbooks.com, and maybe 2 or 3 of us can meet up, just have a coffee or a beer and sit down and write for an hour, then have a chat, write for another hour, and then go on our separate ways. But that's in Halifax in West Yorkshire, very close to here, 15 minutes on the train for me. And I want to encourage anybody who wants to take part in that just to join me, or join me from home and then update your comments or your word counts. But I had a great time on Sunday. I took my Alpha Smart Neo and I wrote quite a lot in that, but I also used this book, the Clairefontaine graph paper book that I mentioned recently, and I had great results with that. But on Sunday, I managed to do quite a lot. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I knew this would be difficult. 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. So I'm a pip over 7,000 at the moment, but that's a really good set of process on my way to a 40,000 word plus manuscript. And I'm convinced it was because of using my Alpha Smart Neo, which has massively increased my writing time because it is completely distraction free. It's faster than writing with a fountain pen, obviously, even though I did manage a couple of 1,000 words with a fountain pen. So these are some of the notes I wrote here, and then that's in a Staedtler fine tip pen. But I did a lot of writing with a new purple ink that I got from Cult Pens, for using one of their Pelican I think it's called 4001 inks. Let me see what it's called. Yeah, I'm using this one, Pelican 4001, in my Pelican fountain pen that was my dad's. So between the two mechanisms, the fountain pen and the Alpha Smart Neo, I managed over 4,000 words. But since then, we're now on Tuesday, I'm up to over 7,000. So I'm really pleased. I've only written on 2 days out of the 5. I spent most of Saturday just thinking about ideas and looking at what I could do, so that by the time I went to Halifax on this Sunday afternoon, I was ready. I was in a better space. I made a series of notes. I used post-it notes. I drew out a lot of things in this particular notebook, and then I was able to take my ideas and just see what came out in terms of story and information that was calling me on the actual Sunday afternoon. So I was really pleased with it, and it's gone really well. Something else I want to mention, and I'll explain why in just a minute. I bought this book when I was at the bookstore in the Peace Hall in Halifax. It's called The Haunted Trail I've alluded to the fact that one of the things I really enjoy is country walking or walking outside in the countryside. So I've done lots of the UK long distance footpaths. I've done most of the Camino de Santiago in northern Spain with one of my sons. And I've often had a real, not an intuitive feeling, maybe it is an intuitive feeling, but I've been really touched by some of the places that I've visited on lots of those UK walks, and also some of the very isolated areas of northern Spain. So the idea that there is a book called The Haunted Trail, I think is perfect timing, because I've talked about this before. Classic tales of the rambling weird. A remarkable blood-soaked stranger upends the life of two Lake District ramblers. A lonely tavern offers its guests something much more disturbing than a post-walk pint. A night hike on the fens takes a terrifying turn when the fog rolls in. From the darkly humorous to the chillingly sinister, tales of the haunted trail are as old as time. We have always travelled on foot, and our worst fears have often accompanied us. Whether walking for pleasure or necessity, the ramblers of these classic stories trip across unseen boundaries, plotting routes towards the numinous, the uncanny, and the plain evil. I'm really looking forward to reading this book. I want to finish it after I've finished the Yorkshire book, but a few days ago we had Halloween here in England. The family in Mexico was celebrating Dia de los Muertos and sending me videos of their house-to-house visits and the shrines of different families and what were on display, and the invitations or the open house celebration that we have there for Dia de los Muertos. And that was special. And I was very sad not to be there, because this time last year I spent Muertos in our small community in the Sierra Mije mountains of Oaxaca with lots of my extended family, lots of my Mexican family, but also some of our English family joining and taking part in the celebrations. So Halloween, Day of the Dead, and an obvious link to this beautiful book called The Haunted Trail. I love the woodcut on the front of that, and there are other similar illustrations that I saw looking at other books while I was in the bookstore in Halifax. But it was great, and I really enjoyed seeing it. If I can continue the same level of writing this week, that would give me maybe another 6,000 or 7,000 words and take me very close to 15,000 by Sunday. I'm not sure that will happen, but if it does, I'll be immensely pleased with it, because it will mean that by the, let's have a think, if today is the 5th, Sunday would put us on the 10th, but that would mean I'm well along the goal of 40,000 words by the time we get to the 10th. I don't know how you're getting on. I'd be interested to see in your comments what progress you've made. This year, I'm conscious that I'm taking a more relaxed approach to getting the 40,000+ word target. And when I haven't felt like writing over the last 5 days, I just haven't. I've picked up a book, I've read a bit, I've just let my brain relax into other stories. Look at this beautiful picture on the back here of Stays, a little coastal village in North Yorkshire, just north of Whitby. But I've used that time just to let my brain relax and to focus on reading other people's stories and just letting those words fill me or give me ideas for what I may write in my own manuscripts in a month process. Let me know where you are. I want to wrap this up now. I hope the fireworks in the background haven't been too distracting, but it was nice to think about Guy Fawkes Night when it was actually called that, and when the focus was on setting fire to the effigy, but also celebrating his radical attempts to overthrow the ruling powers in 1605. So it's been a good week and a busy week. Let's have a think. Is there anything else I want to mention? No, I don't think there is. Let's have a good push through the next 4 or 5 days into the weekend and see what you can actually capture in terms of words and storytelling and bringing your ideas together in a way that works truly well for you, but which allows you, as my friend Tish Bouvier says, to push words forward one paragraph or one page at a time to get to the place where you want to be. If, by the way, you want to take part in an online writing process, Tish is running or hosting a Write With Me process at 5 a.m. I want to say Eastern time in America, but actually no, it'll be Central time, because she and several of her friends are based in Texas. So if you want to write with her, look at her channel, Tish Bouvier, Bouvier, and just tune in. You can leave comments as you're writing if you want to. You can say hello to people. It's 5 a.m. there. It worked really well for me just to sit and watch and to play the music that is part of that process here on Saturday at 10 a.m. in England. And I think, again, that allowed me to have some of my ideas and my story ready for when I went over to Halifax and I wrote for several hours in this amazing coffee shop space at Square Chapel in Halifax. If you want to join us this weekend, drop me a message, like I've said, nick@nicksturgeonbooks.com, or pop me a message on here and we'll find a way to communicate privately in the background. But I hope that's helpful. Again, the fireworks are going crazy outside. I'm sure you can hear those. But wherever you are, keep going. It's very early days. It's the 5th of November. We have almost a whole month of regular writing, daily writing or writing every other day. But get yourself into a pattern where what you add to your notebooks or to your digital devices or your Alpha Smart Neo, which is far from being a digital device, add your words to your screen or to your paper and make the progress that you want to do. I'm going to pop outside now and watch some of the fireworks in the neighbourhood, but wherever you are, you know the story. Very happy writing. Happy Guy Fawkes night.